The core philosophy of this guide is that the principles which forge the world's most resilient warriors can be applied by anyone to conquer their personal and professional battles. It begins with the foundational step of any successful mission, defining a clear purpose. This isn't about vague ambitions, but about identifying the non-negotiable values that form your ethical stand, the bedrock of your character. From this stand, your true purpose emerges, acting as an internal GPS that guides every decision and provides the unwavering line needed to endure hardship. Without this clarity, effort is wasted, much like a recruit who lacks the deep desire to be there and ultimately quits. The journey to accomplishment is a series of targeted missions, and it all starts with knowing exactly what you are fighting for. With a purpose established, the next critical skill is mastering your own mind. In chaos, a SEAL learns to achieve front-sight focus, a state of intense concentration on the immediate, most critical task. The civilian equivalent is the disciplined practice of silencing distraction. This is cultivated through deliberate techniques like controlled breathing and seeking silence, which train the mind to dismiss external noise and internal chatter. This mental control is the prerequisite for focus, allowing you to tackle goals sequentially with full power rather than scattering your energy. However, a focused mind must also be a strong one. True growth lies not in comfort, but in deliberately challenging your weaknesses. The book argues that we must actively engage our fears and limitations, building the disciplines of confronting what makes us uncomfortable. This builds resilience, turning perceived vulnerabilities into sources of strength, exemplified by an executive who conquered a paralyzing fear of heights not by avoidance, but by facing it head-on during a mountain climb. The cultivation of mental toughness is framed as an internal battle between two forces, the fear dog and the courage dog. Lasting strength comes from consistently disciplining the impulses of fear and actively feeding courage with positive, empowering thoughts. This goes beyond simple optimism, it involves gaining command over your emotional and physical responses. The text explains how negative emotions like anger or fear create physical tension that hinders performance. The key is to recognize these states and consciously transform that energy into determined action. Furthermore, peak performance taps into a deeper intelligence, the subconscious mind. By honing both focused awareness, deep concentration, and relaxed awareness, open observation, you can feed your subconscious a rich diet of sensory information. This reservoir of data can then produce intuitive insights and creative breakthroughs, those aha moments that solve complex problems, much like the inspired ideas that came to historical figures during periods of rest after intense focus. Finally, the principles shift from the internal self to external strategy, particularly in business. The volatile landscape where most startups fail is treated as a battlefield. The key to building a resilient enterprise is the strategic allocation of resources, akin to a military unit prioritizing high-value targets. This involves a constant assessment of where your energy, time, and capital will have the greatest impact and return. When something within your organization or product line isn't working, the SEAL-inspired approach is not to apply a feeble patch. Instead, it advocates for a deliberate break-it-down-to-build-it-back-up mentality. This offensive restructuring, though demanding, prevents stagnation and leads to genuine improvement. The overarching strategic posture is to avoid a defensive, reactive mindset. Just as in combat, lasting success and security are achieved by maintaining the initiative, constantly adapting, and proactively shaping your environment to achieve your defined mission. The book concludes that by integrating this warrior's framework, from core purpose to tactical execution, you can design a life and career of extraordinary accomplishment and resilience.